Hey, good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are located. We're going to go ahead and get started. Do have probably some other companies that are going to be jumping on along the way, but we won't hold up. We'll just go ahead and move forward. By the way, this is Darren Pierce at Sage in beautiful Beaverton, Oregon. And as you would imagine, it's raining today, but that's a whole nother story. So when we look at this, we're going to be taking a look at the Sage Bid Management Solution and the function it can do for you and the benefits it will offer your company. The thing that we want to, a couple housekeeping items here. We will be muting the lines. And we'll do that throughout the entire presentation. We're going to be recording this and then distributing this to all of the individuals out there that have signed up and registered and, of course, attended as well. So we'll keep the lines muted. And then if you have any questions later on, you can contact me and either shoot me an email or give me a call, and we'll follow up with you and hit specific questions to you and for your company. By the way, quick agenda here, short little PowerPoint. Don't want to PowerPoint you to death. Of course, that is never the intention of these things, but do want to at least cover a couple concepts, and then we'll move on into the solution. So let's go ahead and get started. The thing that you look at with bid management, it is a solution of a greater whole. There's another side to the bid management, of course, and it is the project center. So when you're looking at sending out your ITBs, your invitations to bid, once you have been awarded the project and you're moving forward, we want to streamline that process and now be able to track all of the RFIs, submittals, logs, anything that you're doing and controlling about that project. So two solutions, but today, of course, we'll be focusing on the bid management solution. Couple concepts to think about as we look at this. This is a cloud solution. It does live and breathe in the cloud. And the key thing to that and the benefit to that is one central location for all of the individuals, all of the companies to go out and get to the documents. So you're going to be centralizing all of that documentation, all of that information. So any of the subcontractors, the downstream partners that need to see that information can come out there and download those documents and be able to get to that information, that detail. By the way, security is a lot of layers to the security that you can provide so that those subs are only seeing the information they're intended to see. And that, by the way, this has come up as a question, they will not see the other subcontractors or the other vendors, downstream partners that are vying for the business. They'll only see their information. But when we're looking at it, what we want to do is streamline the process of sending out those invitations and then being able to stay on top of that as well. When you look at it, and I've talked to many clients about this, when you look at it, I've seen them organized in a manner that is using Outlook as tracking, who's bidding on this job, and it is a very manual process. And, of course, Excel spreadsheets come into that process as well. Well, we want to automate all of that for you so you can track it very efficiently and get your coverage on the divisions that you need coverage in. So I didn't read through all of these. I figured you guys could read that as we go, as I was talking there. So, but we're looking at the efficiency factor. So, as I mentioned, we want to keep it brief, right? We don't want to PowerPoint you to death. So let's get into the solution itself. And let's see where I have that solution, and it's right there. So a couple things to think about as we look at the solution. As I mentioned, it's in the cloud, online collaboration. It's the way that everything is kind of moving these days. When you look at navigation through the solution, there's a couple ways that you can look at it. We have the toolbar here that can give you the navigation to move up and down through the different screens that you want to look at, take advantage of. Or what you can use is a more of a formal, or should I say a folder hierarchy out here that'll allow you to jump around as you need to. I like to do a kind of a hybrid of both and keep it open just so I can move from one area to the next. Now, highlighting the toolbar, what you're going to notice is we go from one screen to the next. Different functionality, different features, and I'll highlight the ones that I think will be important and relevant for you. And then, of course, as the screen changes below, we'll talk about that. So out of the gate, when we look at the solution, a couple things I always like to highlight in here, and we'll jump into setup. Very rarely do you see setup. I'm not going to set up anything, but I do want to highlight one of the features, the functionalities that our clients do take advantage of and like to have, and it really speaks to the metrics. How do you gauge the quality of performance for those partners that you work with, those subcontractors? Well, what we want to do is give you a system, metrics, so to speak, to put in place so that we can gauge how they are doing. Now, keep in mind, you can make changes to each one of these sections, add different categories, and add additional points to the structure over here. So it could be 1 to 10 rather than just 1 to 5. But it gives you a great way to manage the performance that we're getting and a great way to look at the future when we're getting more preferred subcontractors we want to work with there. So great way to do that. We want to give you a mechanism to make that happen. The other thing that we look at in here is tracking activity within the system. You want to know who's been out to the site, what have they done? What have they downloaded? And you can see in here we can go ahead by dates and by additional information that will give us the reporting mechanism to see who's done what, when, and where. So automatically tags all of that information for you, and you can run those reports. As you can see, Vic Turner's been out here quite a bit, and there I am a little bit as well. So when you look at that, now we can track that information and have an audit trail of what activity's gone on out here. So good information right there, and just a couple things I want to pinpoint just to ensure that I hit those particular topics before we get off the phone. So looking at this. Now, if you're regional, or if you're just in a specific locale, or if you are national, a lot of companies that we work with want to divide up how they parse out their projects. Well, in this situation, what you can do is put in a folder system right here that would say, well, Oregon region, Washington region, or Sage Sales, which isn't really a region, it's just a demo, it's playground for us. But when we look at this, you can break it up in any manner that you want. And digging down into the Oregon region right here, don't know if you're a Ducks fan or not, or if you've even seen them, but most people have heard of them. We are working on the Autzen improvement, or on the stadium right there. But when we look at this, now we can organize those projects the way that you want. One of the companies that's working with the system that I worked with actually has over 1,000 projects per year that they're working on. Smaller, little shorter time frame of projects, but they wanted a nice way to get in and organize those so they can get to them real quickly. Here's another efficiency factor that you look at here. If I want to go in and type in, whatever your naming convention may be, let's get right to the project that we want to get to. So very easily, type in every one of these columns. As you can see, you can type into to have it sort or find the project you're looking for. The top are the column headers here. You'll be able to sort the column the way that you want as well. So I'll go ahead and get rid of that. Say OK, and we'll dive down into the Autzen Stadium right here. A couple things that we'll be looking at. Now, most of these things will deal with looking at the project center, looking at the project management side of things. And here you've got project management, you've got your reports available to you. This is kind of a central area to get to those particular things, those activities, those items, those functionalities that you want to get to. Or you can go over here. Like I said, there's multiple ways to navigate through the system. At this point, maybe we want to look at plans, though. I want to go to my current plans, see the most recent information. By the way, when you're looking at the toolbar, you'll see some different things up here. Transmittal is one of those. Do I want to transmit anything out of the system? Now, today, when you're looking at a solution like this, do we attach things? Well, we definitely want to have some notifications or some messaging. There's other ways to do that, but we can set up those transmittals as well. But let's dive into current plans, architectural. Now we can see all of those current drawings as they're populated out here, and we can very easily get into and say, okay, 01, let's get right to that particular plan what we're looking for. Just to reiterate, reinforce the search mechanism that you have within the system. Pretty powerful stuff. There's a lot of documents that we have out here. We'll go ahead and say okay to that, open that up. As you come across here, a lot of different details, a lot of information, when it's been updated, when it's been changed, and we can also download, which is the preferred portion of this. And one thing about this, and I will mention, is when you look at the solution, there's no restrictions to the size of the documents that you're pulling out here or you're pushing out here, right? You're uploading to the system. Yeah, you basically can go ahead. Some other solutions do restrict the amount that you can do to 10 megabytes at a time. We don't do that. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and view this very easily, see this, view this information, drive in, change the percent in the view, and we can download this as well. So now we have the opportunity to see this in a central location. Makes it very easy for everybody that's actively involved with this project to stay on top of that information and get those documents as well. We'll bump over here and jump into bid packages now. And as we look at this, of course, my toolbar is changing again. New bid package or new project. A couple things I want to mention there is you can set up templates that minimize the information that you have to input. So we want to make sure that that's a very quick process for you, make changes where it's appropriate, but you can set up templates based upon a certain type of job. Our commercial job, we have one template. Residential, we have another. So how that applies to your business, you can set it up in that manner. Bid package would be the same way. Add a message. Now, when we look at this, we want to maybe add a message. I can go ahead and select add a message and look at the information that we get right here. Maybe at this point, of course, we're in pre-construction, right? We want to make sure we're getting the message out to maybe those who've not answered. I want to send them a quick message. Hey, where are you? Are you going to bid on the job or not? So we can get that information or any of these other criteria we can put in there. The other thing that you look at is what's the distribution methodology? So when I look at it, is it going to be email? Is it going to be fax? It's still happening, right? Or we have the preferred setup. So on the profile for that company, we can set it up to that deferred methodology that they said, hey, this is the way that I want to receive this particular information. Now, as we dive down here, we can look at rich text environment. So it's not just going to be, hey, all the same font size, all of the same look and feel. You can be very creative with how that information is going to look. Copy and paste if you want, and bring it in from Word, and bring it in here if you want as well. So very powerful. Now what we can also do, although do we really want to do that these days? If they're smaller files, we can attach and send them out with the message as well. But you don't want to get into those documents that are 12 megabytes, 15 megabytes, because that will bury some of our Outlook, our email, right? So that will sit there and it'll have the thinking cap on for hours and finally just blow it up, right? So sometimes we may want to send out some smaller files for sure. Then looking at this particular bid package here. Now we can look at all of these, but we want to get a summary of the activity that's going on. Now I said activity. Really what I mean is who's bidding on this? What's the bidder status that we've got on this? So we can see a very quick report here for this particular bid package. Now keep in mind, of course, we have a report that covers all of the bid packages for you, summarized for you. The intention, of course, is do we have the coverage that we need for those particular divisions? Now, this is applicable to, well, the 16 at this point, But of course, we have the transition to it's funny to say the new 2004, which has been modified over the years, but CSI code master format that we're looking at to 48, right? So we may be taking advantage of that at this point, and that would be your breakout as well. One other thing I'll mention for those of you on the line here is that there are integration points with Sage 300 and in the future Sage 100. Sage 300 has, and this will be more on the project management side, the cost side of things, we can see all of those costs reflected out here. But from the bid management side, we care about the address book. And we have the integration of the address book out here. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation, but that's only for Sage 300 at this point. Sage 100 will be gearing up for that later in the year, and we'll get all of those integration points working then. But back to this, we are looking at a nice review of the coverage we're getting and who's bidding and who's not. But we may want to dive in deeper. We may want more detail on that. So what I can do is double click, or single click actually in this instance, and jump down into the details and the information here. First, we'll focus on the toolbar. Add file, multiple files. This goes back to what I was talking about. No real restrictions on the size of these files that we're uploading. We can upload any size and do it very efficiently. And then when we look at this, bidders. Want to apply the bidders to the work package, and then create contact, user contact here, or create a user, and then award bidders. Now this is a transition point. Everybody that's been awarded will transition over into the project management side of things. A little bit more to talk about there, but let's go into add bidders. What we want to do is get in here and give you a very efficient, effective way to add those downstream partners to these bid packages. And as you can see, here's a list. It does look at our address book if you need it to, if you want it to. Some clients have said no. I mean, keep them separate. But for most of our clients, yeah, let's go ahead and have access to that address book. As you can see, same mechanism to go out and find those specific contacts that you want to find. But other things that we may want to see in here, just show users in my organization, show all users, check on these, and that will define the information below here. We want to get a little bit more effective than that, though, right? But we look up at city, we look up at state, zip code, phone number, and what about your cost codes or your CSI codes, depending upon how you define those. We want to be able to see that. Is this a minority-owned company? Or is it owned by a woman, or disabled, so on and so forth, veteran? We have that capability to not only track that information, but go ahead and revise the search mechanism to find those particular companies. But even let's advance it even a little bit more. Now what we can do is bring in that profile information that we set up and additional information we can see right here. And I'm going to even go down to the bottom where we can go by certain dollar amount or a certain state, or what's the radius of the miles around the project that we're looking at as well. So what we want to do is give you the opportunity to have a very quick search mechanism to find the appropriate subs that you want to find. The other thing I will mention is this, is when a subcontractor works with multiple general contractors, what happens in that situation is they become or they're in the public directory. And what that does for you is offers you an opportunity, if you get outside of your normal work area, well, we can take advantage of this directory and be able to invite other subcontractors that we may never have worked with before. So when you look at that, that is an opportunity to look at, and if that is something that you want to take advantage of, you can let us know. You can give us a heads up on that, and we can get you started with those directories. Now as we dive into this particular area right here, we're looking at defining the scope bid package, of course. And looking at that, of course, put in the information and in different details. When is it going to be due? When is your bid due? We want to highlight that, actually. We want to make sure that they know that, just so we don't get any procrastinators on that. And then we can look at any pre-bid meeting dates and different information that we look at here. As we drive down into the scope, now we can look at how that is defined. And we got some highlighted information here. We can do some things even nicer than this, but now we've got the scope and really defined all of the different things that we want to have out here. As you can see, the bid's due by Friday, 6/16/2015. So, hey, we are working with sample data here, people. So when we look at this, who's going to be accountable for the project? It's going to be our project manager. We can list additional information in here as well. I'm going to skip through this section real quick and drop to the bottom here. Now, remember the message that I was going to send. Well, I want to be able to track all of that and have that available to me. So we're tracking those messages, and we can get right to our current plans. Remember that folder? So right from the ITB, or the bid package, we can see or get to those current plans, those current drawings, and we can attach additional files down here as well. All accessible, well, if intended to be, accessible by the downstream partner, if you will. Now as we jump up here, this is where we're looking at the breakout for this particular bid package. I'm looking at the CSI, the breakout, the CAS codes that we look at in here. And what we can see is, and I always like to dive into one that's giving me a little bit more information on how we track details in here. Here we go, right here. So when we look at this, we're going to get an indicator. It looks like they're tentative at this point. May need to send out a message to them later on, but we're tracking that info. Now what we can do is see, well, what have they said? They may bid on this. This is their reply to that. That's automatically telling us what they're going to be doing and checking it off for us. We may bid. We're tentative on this point, at this point. So we can see that information, that detail. I may want to dive into their profile and see additional information about this particular downstream partner of mine. And what are the CSI codes that they focus on? So we're going to see that information too. And then what we can also see is additional details about their company, minority owned. What's their safety rating at this point? And, well, what's their financial rating as well? So we have additional details that we can keep track of, and then even think about this. Are they preferred? Do we want to have that in there? So think about how you may want to add additional comments and information to this particular downstream partner. So looking at that, a lot of functions that we can take advantage of right there, and very easily just stay on top of who's bidding, are we getting our coverage that we need, and do it very efficiently, very effectively. A lot of automation that happens through the process. The way I like to finish off this presentation is take a look at that invite. Because we make it easy on you, but we also want to make it easy on that partner of ours, that downstream partner that we work with. So looking at that, I'm going out to my email, and I have been sent an invitation to bid here. And this is the way that information looks. Is now we're going to be able to see that information, that detail in here, and look at all of that in very bold letters right here. We can see when it's due by and all the additional details that we have here. As you would expect, each one of these particular links right here in blue will give us the indicator we want. They will bid, they click a button, they will bid, or they will not bid, or they might bid. So we have that opportunity to automate that process just by clicking it. It will be reflected out on the site for us. Oh, and if they want to go out and get the documentation that we have, let's very easily just click on this guy, and it'll take them right to the site. Now, once again, I will reiterate this, that as far as security is concerned, they will only see the information they're intended to see. They will not see any of the other subcontractors that are vying for the business. So there's a multi-layer of security that we can put in place that only allows them to see what they want to see. Last but not least, if they want to track out to the ITB, the invitation to bid, they most definitely can. So now, giving us the capability to automate the process and run the reports that we need, see the activity that's going on and who's working in the system, but have a very efficient methodology for doing that. And of course, our downstream partner, let's make it easy on them as well and give them just quick links to the ITBs and the documentation that they may want to download.